Hello students, myself Seena B. Nair, Assistant Professor, Bharat Institute of Law, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research, Salur, Chennai. Today in this session, I would be discussing delegated legislation which comes under administrative law. So in this session, I would like to cover what is the meaning of delegated legislation. Is there any definition given to delegated legislation? What is the reason behind the growth of delegated legislation and development of delegated legislation in various countries and different types of delegated legislation and how to control this delegated legislation? So one by one, we will check. Meaning, delegated legislation is generally a type of law made by the executive authority as per the powers conferred to them by the primary authority in order to execute, implement and administer the requirements of the primary authority. It can be said that it is the law made by any person or authority under the power of parliament. It is also known as subordinate legislation in administrative law. It allows the bodies beneath the primary authority or legislature to make laws according to the requirement. So the delegated legislation, we can MP Jain, he has defined delegated legislation. According to him, delegated legislation is used in two senses, that is exercised by a subordinate agency of the legislative power delegated to it by the legislature, and the subsidiary rules themselves which are made by the subordinate authority in pursuance of the power conferred on it by the legislature. So we cannot see we can see the meaning of delegated legislation is delegated. Delegated means to delegate to some other person. Legislation means we know that governmental functions has been classified into three, that is legislative function, executive function and judicial function. What is the function of legislature? To enact laws. So that legislative function, to enact the enactment of laws, that power is given to whom? By whom? By the executive authority. Delegated legislation is a type of law made by the executive authority as per the powers conferred to them by the primary authority. For example, UGC Act empowers UGC to make certain rules and regulations for all colleges throughout India. Okay, so here UGC Act was enacted by whom? Parliament. It empowers whom? Executive authority. Who is that? University Grants Commission. So as per the power given under UGC Act, UGC is making certain rules. So delegated legislation is a type of law made by the executive authority. Here the executive authority is whom? Executive authority is UGC. As per the powers conferred to them by the primary authority in order to execute, implement and administer the requirements of the primary authority. So here the primary authority is Parliament. By what they have done, they have their duty is to enact a law, that is UGC Act. So according to the power conferred on them, the executive authority makes certain rules. So delegated legislation is generally a type of law made by the executive authority as per powers conferred to them by the primary authority, here the legislature, parliament, in order to execute, implement and administer the requirements of the primary authority. So UGC acts, the purpose of UGC Act, in order to execute that, in order to implement that, in order to administer that requirements, this power is given to whom? Delegated to executive authority. It can be said that it is a law made by the any person or authority under the power of parliament. So legislative power is given to, delegated to some other person or authority. It is called the delegated legislation. It is known as subordinate legislation in administrative law. It allows the bodies beneath the primary authority or legislature to make laws according to the requirement. So, delegated legislation allows the bodies beneath the primary authority. So, under the parliament, who is the executive authority, that is UGC, or some other authority, to make laws according to the requirement. Factors responsible for the rapid growth of delegated legislation. So, what were the reasons behind the rapid growth of delegated legislation? So, as I said in the introductory section, the reasons behind the growth of delegated administrative law in various countries. So, like that. Here also the reasons for the growth of delegated legislation is same: pressure upon parliament, then technicality, then emergency, then complexity of modern administration, then flexibility. These are the factors responsible for the growth of rapid growth of delegated legislation. So pressure upon parliament. So the parliament has to enact certain laws, but it cannot look into each and silly matters. Okay, so it may be overburdened. So it won't be sufficient for parliament to work whole year 24 by 7 days they have to work. So the parliament may be overburdened. They have to enact so much of, if they, for simple matters, if they have to enact laws, they can't find any free time. Okay, so the pressure upon the parliament is because of the pressure upon the parliament, what is happening, they cannot make they will give, what they will give, they give flesh, and they are giving, they will give skeleton. The function of the delegated legislation or executive authority is to give blood and flesh to the skeleton given by the parliament. So parliament may by an enactment, for example UGC Act, as I said earlier, UGC Act, suppose it has a skeleton. So for making rules and for regulations for all colleges, the UGC is enacted, UGC is established. So they will make rules and regulations for all colleges. So by making a skeleton UGC Act, they have established the UGC and the flesh and blood. By making rules and regulations, they will help the parliament. So as a result of expanding horizons of state activity, the bulk of legislation is so great, and that it is not for the legislature to devote sufficient time to discuss all the matters in details. As I said earlier, parliament cannot look into the silly matters. So there may be what they will do, they will give skeleton to executive authority to fill flesh and blood. That function is upon executive authority. Then technicality. Sometimes the subject matter on which legislation is required is so technical and in nature, and the legislature, being himself a common man, cannot be expected to appreciate the legislature on the same. So members of parliament may be best politicians, but they may not be expert to deal with the highly technical matters which require to handle by experts. For example, gas and atomic energy, drugs, electricity. So they are these parliamentarians. They may be common man. They may be ordinary people. They may be best politicians, but they cannot be they may not be technically trained. So these some like gas, atomic energy, drugs, electricity, etc. They need for that special expert people are needed. For that some that power is given to some authority. So some experts may be appointed. So they depends upon their opinion, that authority may make regulations or rules. So delegated legislation you can see in the form of rules, regulations, bylaws, notifications, so and so. So you can see delegated legislation not as in various forms such as regulations, rules, notifications, etc. Another reasons for the growth of delegated legislation is emergency. So in case of emergency, quick action is required to be taken, but it is not practically possible for the parliament. So if any particular authority were constituted by certain enactments, they can take emergency action. It is not possible for the parliament because they have specified time to the parliament has specific sessions. Like, for administrative authority, they can take experiment emergency. They can work on emergency. Then the complexity of modern administration. The complexity of modern administration and the expansion of the functions of the state to the economic and the social sphere have rendered it necessary to resort to new forms of legislation. So the administration, modern administration has been because of the for the welfare of people, the governmental functions has been increased. So that is also a reasons behind the growth of delegated legislation. Then flexibility. So we know that once an act is passed by the parliament, for amendment of it, the certain procedures are required. Because of the administrative authority, they can make legislation. Their method is very flexible. So that is also a reason for the growth of delegated legislation. Move to next the slide, that is advantages of delegated legislation. So the advantages related to delegated legislation is it may save time for the legislature, it allows for flexibility, expert opinion is required in legislation, parliament is not always present in the session, used as an experimental basis, it is resorted to use in a situation of emergency. It can be easily settled down with the consulting the required party of the case. So these are the advantages of delegated legislation. Then nature and scope of delegated legislation. So delegated legislation's nature and scope. Delegated legislation means legislation by authorities other than the legislature, the former acting on express delegated authority and power from the latter. Then delegation is considered to be a sound basis for administrative efficiency, and it does not by itself amount to abdication of power if resorted to within proper limits. The delegation should not in any case be unguided and uncontrolled. Under the Constitution of India, Article 245 and 246 provide that the legislative powers shall be discharged by the Parliament and a state legislature. The delegation of legislative power was conceived to be inevitable, and therefore it was not prohibited in the Constitution. So with the development of society, after when a constitution was enacted, they have recognized the growth of administrative law, growth of delegated legislation. So they have, the constitution framers have included under article 45 and 245, the legislative powers can be discharged, shall be discharged by the Parliament and the state legislature. Article 13 clause A of the Constitution says that law includes any ordinance, order, bylaw, rule, regulation, notification, etc. As I said earlier, the meaning of delegated legislation. The various forms you can see the delegated legislation are order, bylaw, ordinances, rules, regulation, notification, etc. That is which found in violation of fundamental rights would be void. Besides, there are number of judicial pronouncements by the courts where they have justified delegated legislation. So delegated legislation means delegation by legislation by authorities other than the legislature. So if the power, legislation power is delegated to some other authorities, when they enact a law, when they enact certain rules, regulations, bylaws, or whatever may be the form or regulation or ordinances, that is called the delegated legislation. Next, classification of administrative rule-making power or delegated legislation. So, delegated legislation can be classified into three, that is title-based classification, then discretion-based classification, then nature-based classification. So, we can classify administrative rule-making power or delegated legislation into three, that is title-based classification, then discretion based classification, then what is called a nature based classification. So the title based classification may be delegated legislation, may be in the form of rules, regulations, then bylaws, notifications, schemes, orders, ordinances, directions, etc. Then discretion based classification, a discretion may be conferred on the executive to bring to the act into operation on fulfillment of certain conditions. That is called, such a legislation is called conditional or contingent legislation. So the administrative authority may be entrusted with the power to make a law on satisfying certain conditions. That is called a discretion based classification. Then another one is nature based classification, based on the nature and the extent of power conferred on the conferred and the purpose for which such powers can be exercised. For example, executive can be empowered to fix appointed day for the act to come into force, to supply details, to extend the provisions of the act to other areas, to include or exclude the operation of the act to certain territories, persons, industries, commodities, etc., or to suspend or modify the provisions of the act. So, nature of the power, they can make, they can extend, they can add certain details, they can delete certain provisions. This is called the purpose based classification. This is about the classification of administrative rule making power or delegated legislation. Now we can see delegated legislation development in various countries. Absolute delegation in, first we can see delegated legislation in Britain. Absolute legislation in Britain, there prevails the principle of sovereignty of parliament. This doctrine implies that a parliament is supreme and has unlimited power to make any law. Consequently, courts cannot question parliamentary law on any ground. The doctrine of excessive delegation has no application in Britain. So, in Britain, Parliament has absolute power. They have, the Parliament is supreme and has unlimited power to make any law. Consequently, courts cannot question parliamentary law on any ground. Then remedy in the hands of parliament. An important point to note is that in Britain, the remedy lies in the hands of parliament itself. Parliament can control the delegation of power by it if it so pleases. There is no external agency to compel the parliament to do so. It is not necessary for parliament to lay down in a delegating statute any standard policy or norm for guiding the delegate in exercising the power entrusted to him. The delegate may be left free to draft delegated legislation in any way he likes. He can evolve his own policy or standard in exercising delegated power. However, sovereignty of parliament does not mean that there are no principles to which the practice of delegation must conform. So, an important point is that Britain, the remedy lies in the hands of parliament itself. Parliament can control the delegation of power by it if it so pleases. Okay, that's about UK. Now let us see delegated legislation in USA. In theory, in American Constitution, we find a different principle in operation. The position is different in the sense that under the Constitution of USA, delegated legislation is not recognized in theory because of two doctrines: doctrine of separation of powers. The US Constitution is based on the doctrine of separation of powers. By Article 1, legislative power is expressly conferred on the Congress, and the courts have power to interpret the Constitution and declare any statute unconstitutional if it does not conform to their views of the Constitution. So, in USA, there is a concept called a theory called a separation of powers, but in practice it is not possible. Okay, when the power is the courts have power to interpret the constitution and declare any statute unconstitutional if it does not conform to the views of constitution. Then in US, a delegator cannot further delegate besides the doctrine of separation of powers. The US Supreme Court has also invoked the doctrine of delegatus non potestas delegare against delegation by the Congress. So the doctrine means that a delegate cannot further delegate his power. So as the Congress gets power from the people and is a delegate of the people in that sense, it cannot further delegate its legislative power to the executive or to any other agency. So once as per this doctrine, the delegated power, delegation power cannot be further delegated, but it says that the Congress gets power from whom? From people, so they cannot delegate their legislative function to some other authority. But in practice, it is not possible for the Congress to delegate its legislative power to executive. However, strict adherence to non-delegation doctrine was not practicable. Delegated legislation in India, we can study delegated legislation under two heads, that is pre-constitution period and post-constitution period. So as regards the pre-constitution period relating to delegated legislation in India, Queen versus Bura is considered as the leading authority propounding the doctrine of conditional legislation. So in this another case was Jadindra Nath Gupta versus Province of Bihar. In this case, the validity of Section 1 Clause 3 of Bihar Maintenance of Public Order Act was challenged on the ground that it empowered the provincial government to extend the life of the act for 1 year with such a modification as may deem fit. Post-constitution in Delhi Laws Act may be called as Siddhantavali, that is principles as regards constitutionality of delegated legislation. The importance of the case cannot be underestimated in as much on the one hand, it permitted delegation of legislative power by the legislature to the executive, while on the other hand, it demarcated the extent of such a permissible delegation of power by the legislature. So in this case, the court held that parliament cannot abdicate or efface itself by creating a parallel legislative body. Power of delegation is ancillary to the power of legislation. The limitation upon delegation of legislative power is that the legislature cannot part with its essential legislative power that has been expressly vested in it by the Constitution. Essential legislative power means laying down policy of law and enacting that policy into a binding rule of conduct. Then power to repeal is a legislative and it cannot be delegated. Now we can see the three types of the different types of delegated legislation and the what is called a permissible delegated legislation. So the permissible delegated legislation is commencement. So there are delegated legislation, the legislative power. There are certain permission given to the legislative power. Those are commencement, then next one is supplying details. Then what is called next one is inclusion. Then another one is exclusion. Then application of existing laws. Then modifications, then prescribing punishments, then framing of rules. So let me discuss one by one. Commencement. So there may be in several statutes, they may contain an appointed day clause which empowers the government to appoint a day for the act to come into force. In such case, the operation of the act depends upon the decision of the government. Section 3 of the Bombay Rents Hotel and Lodging House Rates Control Act 1947 provides that the act shall come into operation on such date as the state government may by notification in the official gazette appoint in this behalf. So in every there may be it's a in every statute you can see that this act came into force on may come into force on the particular day, but in several acts in some acts there may be an appointed day fixed, so that power is given to state government or central government. So we can see in the act itself, first one or first session or second session, you can see that in the first section you can see that the so and so the name of the act, this act shall come into force as the central government or state legislature decides, like that they will it may mention in the act. So commencement, that is inclusion, the commencement of the act is entrusted to subordinate authority or delegated legislation. Then supplying details. If the legislative policy is formulated by the legislature, the function of supplying details is that for giving effect may be given to executive authority. For example, Section 3 of the All India Services Act authorizes the central government to make rules to regulate conditions of service in All India Services. So in Section 3 of All India Services, you can see the supplying details given to central government. So as per this act, it authorizes, Section 3 authorizes central government to make rules to regulate conditions of service in All India Services. Then inclusion. Inclusion means sometimes legislature passes an act and make it applicable in the first instance to some areas and classes of person, but empowers the government to extend the operation of the provisions to different territories or persons or commodities. So in the initial stage of an enactment, it is not possible, practically possible to include certain persons or application of this act to certain territories. The parliament may give a provision that the central government or state government can add this application of this act to certain jurisdictions, or it can add certain persons. So that power to include certain persons, certain jurisdiction, the application of this act to certain jurisdiction, that power is given to executive authority, that is permissible. Another one is exclusion. So if for example, Section 30 of the Payment of Bonus Act empowers government to exempt any establishment or a class of establishments from the operation of the act. So you can see in every act there may be certain the delegated legislation, such as the permissible delegated legislation, commencement or supplying details, or inclusion or exclusion. Then application of existing laws. Some statutes confers the executive to adopt and apply statutes existing in other states without modification. For example, suppose, just consider as an example, if payment of bonus act or any other labor legislation, if it is applicable in some other states, they that act that power to confer power on the executive to adopt those statutes into their own state. That power is given to whom? Executive authority. Another one is modifications. Sometimes the statute is the statute authorizes the executive to modify existing statute before its application. Then prescribing punishments. For example, Section 37 of the Electricity Act, the electricity board is empowered to prescribe punishment for the breach of provisions of the Act subject to the maximum punishment laid down in the Act. Then is framing of rules. Delegation delegation of power to frame rules, bylaws, regulations, etc. is not unconstitutional, provided that the rules, bylaws, and regulations are required to be laid before the legislature before they come into force, and provided further that legislature has power to amend, modify, or repeal them. This is about a permissible delegated legislation. Like that, impermissible delegated legislation is essential legislative functions. This cannot be, this is a legislative function. Essential legislative function is parliaments or state legislatures power. It is not permissible to it is not permissible to give those power to executive authority. Then repeal of law. For repealing a law, that power is not that power is not given to, delegated to administrative authorities. Then modification, like amendment. Then exemption, then removal of difficulties, then retrospective operation, then future acts. These are the points in which impermissible delegation. Next one is control of delegated legislation. There are three kinds of control given under the delegated legislation. Those are parliamentary control or legislative control, then judicial control, or executive or administrative control. So this in this session we have studied that the meaning of delegated legislation, the reasons for the growth of rapid growth of delegated legislation, then the development of the types of delegated legislation. Then we have seen the development of administrative delegated legislation in various countries such as UK, USA, and India. Then we have seen the permissible delegated legislation and impermissible delegated legislation. Then we have seen the control of delegated legislation. Not only the legislative power is given to administrative authorities, they are limited, their powers are limited. It is monitored by some other authority. So they can be controlled in three ways, that is parliamentary control or legislative control, then judicial control, and executive or control or executive control. This is about today's session. So we hope you have got some idea about the delegated legislation. Thank you so much for listening carefully.